Let me tell you something that I want you to carry with you long after you leave this room today, long after the lights go down and the chairs are folded and you've gone back to your homes and your routines and your lives. I want this idea to stay with you like a fire that won't go out, because some ideas are just too important to let go of. Some truths are too valuable to hear once and forget, and what I'm about to share with you is one of those truths. It is simple, it is ancient, and yet somehow in the noise and the chaos of the modern world, most people have completely missed it. You are not behind. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're sitting there with your arms folded, maybe a little skeptical, maybe a little tired, and you're saying, Jim, you don't know my situation, you don't know how long I've been struggling, you don't know how many years I've wasted, you don't know what I've been through. And you know what? You're right. I don't know your specific situation, but I know human nature. I've studied it for decades. I've talked to people in every condition you can imagine, and people at the top and people at the bottom and everyone in between. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that the feeling you have right now, that feeling of being left behind, that feeling of being too late, of having missed your moment, of watching other people succeed while you're still standing at the starting line, that feeling is one of the most common and most destructive lies that the human mind tells itself. And it is a lie. Let me be very clear about that. It is a lie. Because here's what's really happening. You're not standing at the starting line because you're slow. You're not standing there because you're broken. You're not standing there because fate has somehow decided to punish you. You're standing exactly where every single person who ever built something magnificent once stood. You're standing at the beginning. And the beginning is not a punishment. The beginning is a privilege. The beginning is where everything that matters in this world gets its start. Now let me take you somewhere for a moment. Let me take you back to a very specific point in my own life. I was 25 years old and I had absolutely nothing to show for it. I mean nothing. I was in debt. I had a family to support. I had a lot of big dreams bouncing around inside my head and absolutely zero in my bank account to justify any of them. And I remember the feeling, I remember it like it was yesterday, that feeling of looking around at other men my age who seemed to have it together, who seemed to have figured something out that I hadn't, who seemed to be moving while I was standing still. And I remember thinking, maybe it's too late for me. Maybe I missed my window. Maybe the train already left and I wasn't on it. And then I met a man named Earl Schoaf. And Earl looked at me. I mean, he really looked at me the way that very few people ever look at another person. And he said something that changed everything. He said, son, the fact that you're dissatisfied is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that something is right with you. It means you can still feel the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And the only people who can't feel that gap are the ones who have stopped caring. I want you to sit with that for a moment. The fact that you can feel the distance between where you are and where you want to be, that awareness, that restlessness, that hunger, is not a sign that you failed. It is the very first evidence that you are capable of something more. Because people who have truly given up don't feel restless. They don't feel urgency. They don't feel the ache of unused potential. They've gone quiet inside. But you're here today. And that tells me everything I need to know about you. So let's start there. Let's start with the truth that where you are right now is not the problem. Where you are right now is the raw material. And the question isn't, how do I escape this starting point? The question is, what do I do with it? Now, I've noticed something over many years of studying success and studying people who have transformed their lives from very little into something extraordinary. I've noticed that most people make a fundamental error in how they think about time. They look at someone who has built wealth or built a great career or built a great family or built a great reputation, and they see the finished product. They see the house, not the foundation. They see the tree, not the seed. They see the harvest, not the planting season. And so they compare their chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20, and they conclude that they are behind. But that is not a fair comparison. That is not even an honest comparison. What you are seeing when you look at someone who has succeeded is the accumulated result of years of small, consistent, often invisible decisions. You're seeing the compound interest on choices they made when nobody was watching, when nobody was applauding, when there was no evidence yet that anything was going to work out. You're seeing the destination, but you're not seeing the road. And the road, let me tell you about the road, because the road is where the real story lives. The road is unglamorous. The road is full of setbacks and confusion and days when nothing seems to be going right. The road has long stretches where progress is invisible, where you're planting seeds in soil that shows no signs of life yet. The road requires you to keep going, not because you can see the results yet, but because you understand that results are always downstream from effort. They always come later. They always require patience. And patience, real patience, not passive waiting, but active, disciplined, faith-fueled persistence, is perhaps the rarest and most valuable quality a human being can possess. And here's what I want you to understand about patience. Patience is not the same as inaction. Some people confuse patience with sitting around waiting for something to happen to them. That is not patience. That is wishful thinking dressed up in patient clothing. Real patience is what happens when you are working every day, building every day, learning every day, and you have made peace with the fact that the harvest will come on its own schedule, not yours. Real patience is the quality of someone who has decided that the outcome is worth the wait and the work, and who is therefore committed to the process regardless of how long it takes. Think about a farmer. A farmer doesn't plant seeds in the spring and then go out the next morning to harvest. He plants and then he tends. He waters, he weeds, he watches the sky. He does the daily, unglamorous work of caring for what he has planted. And he trusts, because he understands the laws of the harvest, that if he does his part, the earth will do its part. The earth has never failed on that promise. In all of human history, the earth has never failed to produce a harvest from properly tended seed. Never. The law is absolute. And the same law governs human growth. If you plant the seeds of learning, of discipline, of service, of persistence, if you tend those seeds daily, the harvest will come. Not on your schedule, not necessarily in the way you imagined, but it will come, because that is the law. The law doesn't care about your doubts. The law doesn't care about your fears. The law doesn't care about whether you feel ready. The law simply responds to what you plant and how faithfully you tend it. So the first thing I want to establish today is this: you are not behind the law. The law is waiting for you, and the law will honor every seed you plant starting from this moment forward. Now let me address something that I think is at the very heart of why so many people feel behind, and it has to do with comparison. Comparison is one of the most dangerous habits of the human mind, and yet it is also one of the most difficult to break because it comes so naturally. We are social creatures. We are wired to measure ourselves against others. It has been that way since the beginning of human civilization. But in the world we live in today, comparison has reached a level of toxicity that is truly unprecedented, because now, thanks to technology, you have instant access at every moment of every day to the highlight reels of thousands of people. You can scroll through a device in your hand and see success after success after success. The launches, the achievements, the awards, the beautiful homes, the extraordinary vacations, and if you're not careful, you will construct in your mind a version of the world in which everyone else is winning and only you are struggling. But that picture is false. That picture is a curated illusion, and allowing a curated illusion to dictate how you feel about your own real, honest, beautiful journey is one of the greatest tragedies I can imagine. Here is what I know about the people whose success appears so effortless on the surface. I know that behind every overnight success story is usually about 10 years that nobody talks about. I know that behind every polished presentation is a person who failed in private more times than you can count. I know that behind every confident exterior is someone who has wrestled with doubt and fear and uncertainty just as real as yours. The difference isn't that they were spared those struggles. The difference is that they decided the struggles were tuition, and they chose to pay it. Because that's really what difficulty is. Difficulty is tuition. Every setback you've experienced, every failure you carry, every disappointment that left a mark, all of it is tuition that you've paid toward an education that no institution can offer. The school of real experience, real failure, real persistence, real growth, that school charges a high price, but it also provides an education that is absolutely irreplaceable. And the people who've paid that tuition, the people who've gone through something hard and let it teach them rather than defeat them, those people carry a kind of wisdom and resilience that simply cannot be acquired any other way. So I want to reframe something for you. Instead of thinking about your past struggles as evidence that you are behind, I want you to start thinking about them as evidence that you are educated. Every difficult chapter in your story has made you more capable than you were before you entered it. You have been in training. You didn't know it was training at the time. It didn't feel like training. It probably felt like failure or loss or injustice. But looking back, and I want you to actually look back for a moment, looking back, can you see how each difficulty taught you something that you needed? Can you see how the hard seasons shaped you in ways the easy seasons never could have? I think you can. I think if you're honest with yourself, you'll find that many of the qualities you most respect in yourself were forged in difficulty. Strength doesn't come from easy days. Courage doesn't come from comfortable circumstances. Wisdom doesn't come from reading theory alone. These things come from being tested, and you have been tested, and you are still here. That's not nothing. That is actually extraordinary. The fact that you are still standing, still trying, still showing up, still willing to believe that your best days are ahead of you in a world that will throw every possible obstacle in your path, that is a testament to something powerful living inside you, something that has not quit, something that has been waiting, perhaps for the right moment, the right idea, the right perspective to unlock it, and maybe this is that moment. Now I want to talk about something that I believe is one of the most important concepts in the entire study of human potential. I want to talk about the concept of beginning, because I think we fundamentally misunderstand what it means to begin. Most people think that beginning is the easy part, that the hard part comes later in the middle, in the sustained effort required to see something through. But I would argue the opposite. I would argue that beginning, truly, genuinely, completely committing to beginning, is the hardest thing most human beings will ever do, because beginning requires you to be willing to be bad at something. It requires you to be willing to be vulnerable. It requires you to put something real and meaningful on the line without any guarantee of how it will turn out. Think about all the things you've thought about doing but haven't started yet. Think about the business you've been planning in your head, the skill you've been meaning to develop, the relationship you've been meaning to repair, the health you've been meaning to reclaim, the book you've been meaning to write. Think about all of those things. And now ask yourself honestly, what has kept you from beginning? Is it lack of time? Is it lack of money? Is it lack of knowledge? Or is it something else? Is it fear? Is it the fear of beginning and then not finishing? Is it the fear of putting in tremendous effort and still falling short? Is it the fear of what other people will say if you try something new and struggle? Is it the fear of discovering once you really commit that you might not be as capable as you've hoped? If any of that resonates, and I suspect it does for most of you, then I want to give you a different way to think about it. I want you to consider that fear of beginning is not evidence of weakness. It is evidence of caring. You only fear failing at the things that matter to you, the things you don't care about. You have no trouble starting those because the stakes feel low. The reason beginning feels terrifying is because what you're contemplating beginning actually matters to you deeply. And that deep caring is not an obstacle. That deep caring is the fuel that once you learn to channel it properly will carry you further than almost anything else. So let the fear be there. Let it ride along with you, but don't let it drive. Because here's the thing about fear. Fear is loud at the beginning and it gets quieter as you move. The moment you take the first genuine step towards something that matters, the fear begins to lose its power. Not immediately, not completely, but noticeably. Action is the antidote to fear. Not planning, not preparation, not gathering more information. Action, the willingness to move while afraid. That is the quality that separates people who live remarkable lives from people who merely dream of remarkable lives. And I want to be clear, I'm not dismissing preparation. Preparation matters. Planning matters. Learning matters enormously. But there comes a point, and most people know exactly when they've reached this point, and where more preparation becomes a strategy for avoiding action. Where more planning becomes comfortable procrastination dressed up as responsible caution. Where gathering more information becomes a way to delay the terrifying, beautiful, necessary moment of beginning. You'll know when you've reached that point. And when you do, the answer is always the same. Begin. Begin imperfectly. Begin with what you have. Begin with what you know. Begin with less than you feel you need. Because here is the secret that successful people understand that most people miss. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step, and then the next step, and then the one after that. And the staircase reveals itself as you climb. Now, let me talk about something that I've observed in every person who has ever successfully transformed their life. And it is perhaps the most unsexy, unglamorous concept I can possibly share with you, but it is also the most powerful. It is the concept of daily discipline. Daily, consistent, intentional discipline. The commitment to doing a small set of important things every single day, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what distractions present themselves, regardless of whether anyone is watching or applauding or even aware. Here's what I've come to understand about discipline after a lifetime of studying it. Discipline is not a punishment. Discipline is not something you impose on yourself because you're flawed. Discipline is a gift you give yourself. It is the bridge between the life you have and the life you want. And the cost of crossing that bridge is paid in daily increments so small that anyone can afford them, but compounded over time into results so significant that most people can barely imagine them when they're starting out. Consider this. If you commit to reading 10 pages of something valuable every day, just 10 pages, in a year, you will have read approximately 12 to 15 books. In 5 years, somewhere between 60 and 75 books on subjects that matter to you, subjects that could transform how you think, how you work, how you relate to others, how you see opportunity. Now compare that to the person who reads no books, who consumes only entertainment, who fills their leisure hours with content that leaves them no more capable at the end than they were at the beginning. 5 years from now, the difference between those two people will be extraordinary, and yet the daily investment was just 10 pages, just minutes. Just a tiny, seemingly insignificant commitment that almost anyone could make. This is the magic of consistency. This is why I've always said that it's not the big dramatic efforts that determine the outcome of a life. It's the small disciplines, practiced daily, accumulated over time. The big dramatic efforts are exciting, but they're rare and difficult to sustain. The small daily disciplines are quiet and humble and remarkably accessible, and they work every single time they are faithfully applied. Now, people sometimes say to me, Jim, what if I start and I'm not good at it? What if my results are poor? What if I work consistently for months and I still see very little progress? And my answer is always the same. First, that question itself is backwards because it assumes that progress requires immediate visible results. But progress and visible results are not the same thing. Progress happens constantly in a person who is consistently learning and working and growing. The visible results simply take time to catch up with the progress. The seed is growing underground long before you see anything above the surface. Second, and this is even more important, you absolutely will be bad at it at the beginning. You will make mistakes. You will be clumsy and awkward and uncertain. You will produce results that are far below the standard you've set in your imagination. And that is not a problem. That is the process. That is what beginning looks like. That is what growth looks like before it becomes visible. The person who gets good at anything always first goes through a period of being not good at it. There is no other path. And the people who are willing to endure that period, who are willing to be the beginner, to make the rookie mistakes, to struggle through the early stages without quitting, those are the people who eventually get to the place that everyone else is looking at from a distance and calling overnight success. So embrace the beginning. Embrace the awkward, uncertain, imperfect, beautiful beginning. Because on the other side of that beginning is a version of you that cannot yet fully imagine what they're going to become. Let me share something else with you that I think is absolutely crucial to this conversation, and it's about the stories we tell ourselves. Because in my experience, the single greatest obstacle to human achievement is not circumstance. It's not lack of opportunity. It's not the economy or the market or the timing or any of the external factors that people point to when they're explaining why they haven't yet become who they want to be. The single greatest obstacle is the internal narrative, the story running on repeat inside your own mind about who you are and what is possible for you. I've watched people with tremendous external obstacles, poverty, difficult backgrounds, very little formal education, circumstances that would genuinely excuse failure, rise to extraordinary levels of success. And I've watched people with every external advantage imaginable, resources, connections, education, opportunity, remain stuck and unfulfilled their entire lives. And the difference between those two groups of people is not what happened to them. It's what they decided to believe about what happened to them. It's the story they chose to tell themselves. Your story matters enormously, not the story of your past. Although your past has shaped you, it does not define you. The story that matters most is the story you are telling yourself right now, today, about what is still possible. Because that story, that internal narrative, will determine every decision you make from this point forward. It will determine what you attempt and what you avoid. It will determine who you spend time with and who you walk away from. It will determine what you invest your energy in and what you let go. Your story is not just a description of your life. Your story is, in a very real sense, the blueprint of your future. So I want to ask you something, and I want you to sit with it honestly. Without defensiveness, without judgment. What story are you telling yourself right now? What is the internal narrative that runs when nobody else can hear it? Is it a story of limitation, of all the reasons why success is unlikely for someone like you? Or is it a story of possibility, of all the ways that your unique experiences and qualities and perspective could be of extraordinary value in the world? Because I'll tell you something, the people who have built truly remarkable lives have not done so because they were born with better stories. They've done so because at some point, sometimes in a moment of crisis, sometimes after reading a book or hearing an idea that landed differently than anything had before, they made a decision to change the story, to rewrite the narrative, to stop being the victim of their circumstances and start being the architect of their possibilities. And that decision is available to every single person in this room. It costs nothing. It requires no special talent. It requires no particular background or resource. It requires only the willingness to look at your situation honestly and say, whatever has happened before today, I am deciding right now that my story is not over. I am deciding that the next chapter is going to be different. I am deciding that where I am is not where I stay. That decision, that moment of genuine inner commitment, is where everything begins. Not the strategy, not the plan, not the tactics or the tools or the techniques. The decision, because once the decision is truly made, once it's made in the deepest part of you and not just as a surface level aspiration, the strategy will emerge. The plan will become clear. The path will reveal itself one step at a time to someone who has actually decided to walk it. Now I want to talk about the people around you, because no conversation about growth and potential and change is complete without addressing the profound impact that your environment has on your trajectory. I don't just mean your physical environment, although that matters matters too. I mean your human environment, the people you surround yourself with, the voices you allow closest to you, the conversations you participate in most frequently. Here is something I've observed that is as consistent as any law of nature. You will inevitably become a composite of the people you spend the most time with. Not partially, not occasionally, inevitably. The attitudes, the habits, the language, the expectations, the standards, the beliefs, all of these things are contagious in ways that we rarely fully appreciate. When you spend time consistently with people who complain about their circumstances and do nothing to change them, you will find yourself gradually adopting that posture. When you spend time consistently with people who are actively growing, who challenge each other, who talk about ideas and possibilities and goals, you will find yourself gradually elevated toward their level. This is not a commentary on the value of people as human beings. Every person has worth and dignity, but not every person is going to help you become who you are capable of becoming. And you get to choose, within the constraints of your life, you get to choose where you invest your time and who you allow to have the most influence over your thinking. Seek out the people who are a little further down the road than you. Seek out the mentors, the teachers, the books, because books are conversations with minds you might never otherwise meet. Seek out the relationships that call you upward rather than those that pull you downward. Be genuinely interested in how people who have built what you want to build actually did it. What did they read? How did they spend their mornings? What disciplines did they maintain? What did they give up? What did they refuse to give up? The answers to those questions are worth more than almost any tactical advice you could receive. And then do this, and this is something that very few people do well, actually model the behaviors. Not just admire them, not just study them, actually implement them, because knowledge without application is one of the most frustrating and ultimately fruitless conditions a human being can occupy. I've met very educated people who changed nothing. I've met people with very modest formal education who changed everything. The difference was always the same. The difference was always the willingness to take what they learned and actually do something with it, to convert the insight into action, to take the theory and test it against reality. Because reality is where growth actually happens. Not in your mind, not in your journal, not in your planning sessions. Reality, the messy, unpredictable, feedback-rich environment of actual action and actual consequence and actual results that tell you the truth about what is working and what needs to be adjusted. That environment is where you will learn more in a month of genuine effort than you will in years of preparation without action. And when reality gives you feedbacks, and it always does, receive it honestly. This is where many people fall apart. They try something, they get results that are not what they hoped for, and they interpret those results as confirmation that they were right to be afraid, that they should have stayed where they were, that they are not capable of this. But that interpretation is wrong. The results are not a verdict, the results are information. The results are telling you what adjustments to make so that your next attempt is better than your last. The results are part of the curriculum, not a signal to drop out of the school. Think about every skill you currently possess that you are proud of. Think about something you do well, something that feels natural and fluent now. And then try to remember when it wasn't natural. Try to remember when it was new and difficult and frustrating. Try to remember the awkward early days when you were making every mistake, when you wondered if you'd ever get it, when progress felt impossibly slow. You made it through those days. You didn't make it through by quitting. You made it through by continuing. And what you currently do with ease was once something you had to fight for, which means, and this is the point, which means that the things you cannot yet do with ease are not beyond you. They are simply waiting for the same patient effort that turned your past struggles into your present strengths. I want to say something now that I think is among the most important things I'll say today, so I want you to listen carefully. I want to talk about the concept of deserving, because I've noticed that many people, brilliant, capable, genuinely extraordinary people, carry a quiet belief that they don't quite deserve the life they want. That success is for other kinds of people. That abundance is for people who had better starts, better advantages, better circumstances. And this belief, this quiet, often unspoken belief, operates like a governor on an engine. It lets you move, but it never lets you reach your full speed. It allows some progress, but it quietly limits how far that progress can go. And I want to dismantle that belief as directly as I know how. You deserve, not because you are perfect, not because you've never failed, not because your background is impressive or your past is clean. You deserve a full, rich, meaningful, prosperous life because you are a human being who has shown up and who is willing to do the work. That is the qualification. That is the only qualification. And it is a qualification that every person in this room meets. Abundance is not a finite resource that runs out when too many people claim it. Success is not a zero-sum game where your rise requires someone else's fall. The world has never become poorer because more people learned, grew, and contributed. The world has become richer. Every life that is fully lived, every potential that is genuinely realized, every person who rises from their beginning to their full expression, every one of those stories adds to the total wealth of human experience. Your success is not taking anything from anyone. Your success is adding something that only you can add. So release the guilt, release the hesitation, release the apologetic relationship you may have developed with ambition. Wanting more for your life is not arrogance. Working towards something better than where you are is not ingratitude for what you have. You can be profoundly grateful for this present moment and still be absolutely committed to building something greater. Those two things are not in conflict. They are, in fact, natural partners. Gratitude keeps you anchored. Ambition keeps you moving. And you need both. Without gratitude, ambition becomes restless and dissatisfying. You reach each goal only to immediately feel empty and chase the next one without ever appreciating what you've built. Without ambition, gratitude becomes complacency, a beautiful but ultimately static contentment that stops short of what you could become. The balance of those two forces, deep appreciation for what is and fierce commitment to what could be, that balance is the secret of people who live with both peace and passion. And here's something else I want you to consider. The journey toward what you want, the actual process of building something from very little into something meaningful, that journey will demand things from you. It will demand sacrifice. It will demand that you give up certain comfortable habits in exchange for productive ones. It will demand that you invest time that you might currently be using for entertainment or distraction. It will demand that you have difficult conversations, make uncomfortable decisions, take risks that have no guaranteed return. And here is my question for you. Are those demands too high? Is the price too steep? Most people, when they think about it honestly, will admit that the price of growth, while real, is far lower than the price of regret. I've sat with people near the end of their lives. I've had those conversations. And I can tell you with great certainty that the most common source of pain is not the things people tried and failed at. The most common source of deep, lasting regret is the things people never tried, the paths not taken, the callings left unanswered, the gifts never fully expressed, the life that was possible but never pursued. Don't let that be your story, please. The years ahead of you are too valuable. The contribution you are capable of making is too significant. The person you are capable of becoming is too extraordinary to let fear and inertia and the small, comfortable life of minimum effort be the thing that decides your outcome. Because you get to decide. That is the most powerful truth I know. No matter what your circumstances are, no matter what your background is, no matter how many times you've started and started again, you get to decide, starting today, starting right now in this moment, who you are going to be and what you are going to build and how fully you are going to live. And the starting point of that decision is the understanding that you are not behind. You are at the beginning. You are at exactly the right place for someone who is about to change the entire direction of their life. Let me tell you about a principle I call the slight edge. I didn't originate the idea, but I've thought about it deeply because it explains something that most people find mysterious. Why some people who seem to start with no particular advantage end up in extraordinary places. The slight edge is simply this. The consistent application of small disciplines over time produces results that are wildly disproportionate to the apparent size of those disciplines. The person who reads a few pages more, who exercises a little more consistently, who saves a small percentage more, who spends 15 minutes more each day developing a skill, that person 10 years from now is not slightly better off than the person who did none of those things. They are profoundly, almost incomprehensibly better off because the small disciplines compound. They build on each other. They create momentum. And momentum, once established, makes the next step easier than the one before it. This is why I've always said, success is not the result of a few good decisions. It's the result of thousands of small decisions, most of them unglamorous, most of them made when nobody was watching, most of them feeling insignificant in the moment. The successful person has simply learned to make slightly better decisions consistently across many areas of life over long stretches of time. And the results of that slight, consistent edge are staggering. And here's what this means for you right now. It means that the distance between where you are and where you want to be is not as vast as it feels. It means that the path forward is not a single enormous leap that you either make or miss. It means that the path forward is a series of small, daily, manageable steps that virtually anyone can take. The first step today, another step tomorrow, and the one after that, and one after that. Building, accumulating, compounding. You don't need a miracle. You need a decision and a discipline. You need a clear sense of where you want to go and a commitment to take the next available step in that direction every single day. That's it. That's the entire formula. It's not complicated, but it requires something that is genuinely difficult, and that is the willingness to do it even when you don't feel like it, even when the results are not yet visible, even when doubt whispers that it isn't working, even when the world around you offers 1,000 more comfortable alternatives. That willingness to keep going in the absence of evidence, to keep planting in what looks like barren ground, to keep showing up when showing up is the last thing you feel like doing. That willingness is what separates the life of fulfillment from the life of what might have been. And I want to give you something practical to anchor this conversation before I bring it home. I want you to think about one thing, just one, not 10 things, not a comprehensive life overhaul. One thing that, if you did it consistently beginning tomorrow morning, would move you closer to the life you most want to live. One discipline, one commitment, one daily investment in the person you are becoming. Maybe it's 30 minutes of reading in a subject that matters to your growth. Maybe it's 30 minutes of movement that honors your body. Maybe it's an hour of focused work on a skill you've been neglecting. Maybe it's one genuine conversation per week with someone who challenges you to think bigger. Maybe it's a daily practice of writing down what you're grateful for and what you're committed to, because there is power in putting your intentions on paper that most people dramatically underestimate. Whatever it is, identify it, name it, and then make a commitment, not to the world, not to an audience, to yourself, a commitment to yourself made quietly, honestly, without fanfare, that starting tomorrow you're going to do this one thing every day, not perfectly, not without interruption, not without the occasional miss, but with a commitment to return when you miss, to never let a miss become an abandonment, to treat the discipline as a promise to the most important person in your life, which is you. Because here's the truth about that commitment. Every time you keep it, you build something. Not just the skill or the habit or the result you're working toward, you build confidence. You build trust in yourself. You build the evidence slowly and steadily that you are someone who says what they're going to do and does it. And that evidence, the accumulated evidence of your own reliability to yourself, changes everything. It changes how you carry yourself. It changes what you dare to attempt. It changes the voice in your head from one of doubt to one of quiet, earned confidence. And that confidence built not on wishful thinking, but on actual proof of your own consistency is perhaps the most powerful thing a human being can possess, because it makes the next risk less frightening. It makes the next beginning less daunting. It makes the inevitable difficulties less capable of stopping you, because you have built, through your own demonstrated behavior, the understanding that you can be counted on by the most important person, yourself. Now let me draw all of this together, because I want you to leave today with something that you can actually carry, something real, something that will be with you tomorrow morning when the alarm goes off and the choice presents itself again. You are not behind. That is not a comforting platitude. That is a factual description of your situation. You are at the beginning of something, perhaps the beginning of a new chapter, perhaps the beginning of an entirely new story, perhaps the beginning of a relationship with your own potential that you've never quite had before. But wherever precisely you are starting from, you are starting. And starting, choosing to actually start, choosing to actually commit, choosing to treat today as the first day of what you are going to build, that choice has more power than you currently know. Every extraordinary life started somewhere ordinary. Every magnificent building started as an empty lot. Every great river started as a spring somewhere in the mountains that you could step across without getting your feet wet. Nothing that matters in this world arrived fully formed. Everything was built. Everything began. Everything started from exactly where it was. And you with your particular history and your particular wounds and your particular gifts and your particular vision of what a meaningful life looks like, you have everything you need to begin. Not everything you'll need for the whole journey. Nobody has that at the beginning, but you have what you need for today, for the next step, for the first commitment. The road ahead is long and it is beautiful, and it will require everything from you. It will ask you to grow in ways you cannot yet fully anticipate. It will present you with challenges that will feel in the moment like they might be too much. And in those moments, and they will come, I promise you they will come, I want you to remember this day. I want you to remember the idea that you are not behind. You are exactly where growth starts. You are not late for the life you want. You are right on time for the life that is being built from this moment forward. And what happens from this moment forward, that is entirely, beautifully, powerfully up to you. Go build it.